Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to solve the cross on the Rubik's Cube on any scramble in 8 moves or less. So let's get right into this. So the first thing you should know about the cross is that there is no hard and fast rule or algorithm that will always solve the cross on every scramble. And the reason for this is you have so many different possible orientations of solving the cross that you can't really fixate on any one algorithm to solve the entire thing. But what you can do is understand how the pieces move and how these movements affect the entire cube. In fact, that's the whole crux of solving the cross. The whole point of the cross is to understand how these four pieces, also known as the cross pieces, because say you do the white cross, they're the edges that form between the adjacent centers to white. So white blue, white green, white red, and white orange. So as long as you understand the dynamics of these pieces and just track how these pieces are moving around, you will be able to figure out more and more efficient cross solutions. And I'm going to give you 6 tips in this video that will help you get to that point in figuring out the most optimal cross solution for any scramble on the Rubik's Cube. So let's jump right in. Now the first big tip is cross orientation. What I mean by this is a lot of beginner cubers, when they're starting out, tend to solve the cross on top. Now this is a good thing, but as you can see, solving the cross on top almost always restricts you to very few pieces in your vision. However, if you solve the cross on the bottom, what you tend to do is you tend to expand that vision, because now whatever's on the bottom and solved, you never have to look at again. For example, I know this blue is solved here. I don't even have to focus on the blue. I can look at the rest of the cube. Whereas if I was like this, I would always be able to look at that white blue edge. So technically, even from here, I'm able to look at the blue white edge, but that's not true from these faces. Whereas if I was doing the cross on top, that's true from all faces. For this reason, you should not do your cross on top. That's a big no. In fact, you should be doing it on the bottom, because that's the most efficient way to do it, and it'll help you understand the piece's motion in the top few layers as compared to the cross layer itself. And the other thing is you want to get used to using the D layer, this is the down layer, for adjusting cross pieces instead of the U layer. For example, if I had something like this where blue and green were opposite each other, if I was holding it like this, I would do a U to make them both, in the right place. Get used to putting it on the bottom and doing a D to fix both of them. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the second tip. The second tip is understanding cross dynamics. So by cross dynamics, I mean you need to remember that the cross at any point in your solve, especially during solving the cross, obviously we're talking about that stage, is very volatile. And by that I mean, when I say solve a cross, okay, just for an example, I'm gonna try doing something like this. This is just a random setup. Okay, let's just also do this. I don't know why, but yeah, it's just a random setup. And if you notice here, none of the pieces are technically solved, but one thing you will notice is that a lot of these pieces are solved with respect to each other. And that's one of the most important things here. Only the relative positions of these 4 cross pieces actually matter. It does not matter that they're actually aligned with their center. And here's the reason why. If I see that red is here, I know that to the right of red, I need to have green when white's on the bottom. So I can just solve this here. Opposite to red, I need the orange piece. So I can just solve that. And next to red, I want the blue. So I can solve that. Now, the cross is solved, but it's not aligned. So to align it, I can just do one move. And this is always the case. If I solve a cross correctly, it's always one or less moves away from being aligned. And yes, a D2 counts as one move. So all this is basically to say you want to ignore your center pieces and just know their relative positions. So if I give you a completely scrambled cube and ask you to solve the cross, all you will have to do in that solution is to know that, okay, if I'm solving red down here, I would want orange down here. In this particular cross, obviously that's not the most efficient, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to actually solve every piece to exactly where it belongs every single time. Like, you can always fix it at the end. You can always solve your cross independent of the centers and then fix the entire cross all at once. That is always more efficient. Now for the third tip, it is piece orientation. Now this, now that we've spoken about the cross and its orientation and how the dynamics of the cross affect the cube, let's talk about piece orientation. By piece orientation, I mean I'm talking about the edge pieces of the cross pieces, and how their orientation might affect you building your most efficient cross. The first thing you need to notice is that cross edges from any given angle, or any edges for that matter, can be deemed as one of two things: oriented or unoriented. So if they are oriented, what that means is you will need only one move if they are in that given layer to bring them to the bottom layer in the right orientation. For example, in this orientation, I would say red is oriented because I need one move to bring it to the bottom layer. If my red was all the way here, technically I need two moves, but I'm saying once it's in the layers that you can move downward on that face, you need just one move, right? And a counter example of that is looking at this orange piece. So white orange here is, I would say, unoriented. And the reason for that is there is no single move that would move it to the bottom layer and not render it flipped. I could go anywhere and try that, but that would not work. I have to make two moves for white and orange to be oriented correctly when in the movable layers. So for example, if it's on the right here, I can make 1, 2. In fact, for an unoriented edge, you will always need an F or a B move from whatever angle you're in. Just understand that oriented and unoriented edges are very important in how you approach the cross. But you might ask the question, why is that important? It just sounds like I'm giving you some theory. Well, look at this cross. When I'm solving white-blue here, I can notice that the white-orange is unoriented. And that means that in solving white-blue, I can help white-orange get oriented like that, and then it's just one move away. So this is an example of a case where you would use an oriented edge to solve an unoriented edge into its future spot. And why is this important? Well, knowing the orientation of your cross edges isn't necessary, but it's important to understand how it works. So for example, if I gave you something like this, here both white orange and white blue are unoriented, right? Because they're both flipped. One move would not solve them into either slot. But you can use both of their unorientedness to solve both. For example, here, for solving white-orange, I would do this to bring it here. For solving white-blue, I can then pair it with the white-orange. And by pairing, I don't mean like F2L pair. It's with white-orange so such that when I solve white-orange, it orients white-blue. Do you get that? So this is like the mirror of what I just showed you. And this is the better case where you have white-orange here and white-blue here. So if something's unoriented, I need to orient it first in order to orient the next, if that makes sense. So all of this, a beginner would most likely solve this something like that. And okay, if you don't do that as a beginner, you should start doing that. So when you have a flipped edge here, you don't necessarily have to get it here and then move the cross, bring it in, move the cross back. You can just move it to either side, bring it down, bring it in, and move that side back up. So that works from the left side as well. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point here is, if you have this kind of case, you can very simply orient the orange, use that to orient the blue, insert the blue and orange. So that's all done in 3 moves. Okay, so now that you understand piece orientation, that brings me to the 4th tip, which is piece dynamics. So piece dynamics is by far maybe the most important part of solving your cross in 8 moves or less, because piece dynamics is talking about how solving one piece affects the other. And I kind of gave you a big hint about that in tip 3, where I solved both of these pieces together. I did not treat them as separate cross pieces. I just said they were both unoriented and I could use one to influence the other. That's exactly what piece dynamics is all about. Piece dynamics will teach you to never influence just one cross piece at a time. In fact, it's almost always better if you see a case where you can influence 2 to influence both. Because if you're influencing just one, you might affect the other pieces but not in a beneficial way. But when I talk about influencing both, for example, when I'm solving green here, if I do just an L2, that's great, that solves green, but you will notice there's also a red piece in here. So to solve that, just doing this L2 didn't really help that, but what you can do is put the red in here. So now the red's on the cross layer. Remember from cross orientation and cross dynamics that the cross is entirely relative. So if I solve red here, I can very simply solve red into the back and then solve green. And in 3 moves, I have solved both red and green. Instead of just doing one move and then going to solve red, you can solve both. So this is how you have to think about affecting multiple cross pieces at the same time instead of just one. And this will completely be a game changer for you in how you approach the cross. And here, I can see a solution to this cross in just 6 moves. All of this is L, D prime, L, R prime, F, R prime. That's it. That's the whole cross. And it seems like this would be so complicated as a beginner because you see all these 4 pieces in various orientations, but piece dynamics fixes all of that. To summarize, you need to use tips 2 and 3 in tandem to accomplish tip 4. Like understanding piece dynamics is highly dependent on understanding piece orientation and cross dynamics. That brings me to tip 5, which is cross piece interactions. So for example, let's just say you have the cross solved, and in this case I have the blue and red, well, by cross solved I mean most of the cross solved, and you have blue and red solved here, and orange and green are here, both unoriented edges. So in this case, what a beginner might do is bring this down and then do that, which is great, but there's something you need to notice here, which is green is already technically a part of the cross, the white green edge piece. It's just unoriented and in the wrong place. You can fix both those things in pretty much 1 or 2 moves. You can fix the unoriented part by doing, well, so this is where it was. You can fix unoriented by doing an F, so now green is matched up with green. You can fix unpermuted by putting in the green in the right place. But what else can you do? You'll notice here that cross piece interaction plays a part because I have this piece, which is the white orange, which is not in the cross, and I have this white green, which is in the cross but in the wrong place. So what I can do is solve both of those by bringing the white orange here. And when I do this to orient the green, I'm going to insert green while orienting the orange, which is what makes the cross so easy in this case. Another case could be something like this, where let's just say you have the cross, all 3 of these pieces solved. In this case, inserting this piece would require you to do, if you were a beginner, you would do something like this and then bring this here, bring this in, bring this back. But you don't need to do any of that, because by using cross piece interaction, what you can do is just move it to the side, bring it down, push it in, and then you affected the cross, so just bring that back. So remembering that piece dynamics and cross dynamics affect the cube a lot more than you think, I will move on into tip 6, which might sound like the worst of these tips, but I promise it's actually the best. Tip 6 is, and I quote Adam Neely, one of my favorite music YouTubers. You should go check him out. His channel is amazing. His content is amazing. And I want to quote Adam Neely and say, repetition legitimizes. And this is so true, because solving the cross repeatedly gives you the real intuition that I've been talking about throughout this video to always solve your cross in the most optimal way. And when I say always, I quite literally mean every single time. You will always be able to find the most optimal solution if you understand all 5 of these aspects, which are cross orientation, cross dynamics, piece orientation, piece dynamics, and cross piece interaction. At the end of the day, all of these are just explaining very basic things in more compartmentalized ways. And I'm sorry that there isn't a single tutorial one size fits all for solving the cross, but that's just how it is, and the cross is intuitive, so you will build the intuition to solve it yourself. So I urge you to practice at least 25 different scrambles every single day without fail, without any inspection, to try and figure out the best solution on every scramble. Just sit with the cube and try and figure out the best solution. Don't time yourself, don't think about, oh, am I finishing this in under 2 seconds? You don't have to think about any of that. Sit with the cube, no timer, like take this timer and put it away, and just focus on the cube and solving the cross in as few moves as possible. Initially, you'll be at 10, you'll be at 12, you'll be at 15 for some scrambles, but you can build your way down to 8 moves and then below it very, very easily. And this is definitely what repetition will help you achieve. So now that I'm through all the tips that I wanted to give you, I thought I'd give you some example cross solutions just to kind of help you build that intuition and show you what I would do in this case. Stay tuned for another video where I go through a few scrambles, and randomly generated scrambles in fact, and think in real time to help you understand what a speedcuber would see when they're solving the cross to help them determine the most optimal solution. Okay, so this is my first cross example, and here you can see the white red is here, the white blue is here, the white orange is here, the white green is here. This is my first step for any cross. Identify the 4 pieces, and literally every other piece on the cube, including the centers, I zone them out. So here I'll notice white red is in the right spot, white orange, white green are here, and white blue is here. What I can do here is solve white orange with one move, because white red is here and I want white orange opposite to it. Notice I didn't say red is solved and I want orange solved as well. I don't care that they're solved. They are in this case, but I don't care about that. I just want orange to be opposite to red. To do that, I can do an R2, which would bring the blue up, right? This blue would come up, and then I can do a U prime to put that blue here in a B2. But that doesn't really help green. And notice here green is an unoriented edge while orange is oriented, one move away. But green is not, green is flipped. Which means I can use, you guessed it, I can use piece dynamics to help orange-white affect the the white-green piece, apologies, to insert that in the right slot. So instead of R2, why not do R prime and bring the white-green over to the layer where this cross edge is, and another R prime to help orient green, and then do F to solve green. And then it's just the blue, which I can continue doing exactly how I would with U prime B2. That's it. So this is how you can use this part of the tips that I gave you to solve a cross like that. So this is my next scramble, and here I notice the the white orange here, the white green here, the white red here, and the white blue here. First thing I notice here is orientation. The pieces are oriented very interestingly. 3 of them are oriented correctly, namely the orange, red, and blue edges, but the green edge is not really that well. It's just unoriented. Why do I say not well oriented? Like it's a dish. Orange is here, and I know to the right of orange lies blue, and I know to the left of orange lies green, but it's right here and it's flipped, which is kind of annoying. So what can I do here? I know that blue deserves to go right next to orange, and I know there's no other cross pieces on this layer. So solving blue is good because I can't affect any other pieces. Physically cannot affect any other pieces, including the red, because I know it's already oriented and I want it here. So I'm just going to solve the blue with an R2. Now, once I do that, orange and blue are solved with respect to each other. And I can do something really cool here with red, because if I bring red over the red area and do an L prime, what that does is it orients green because it aligns green with the center, and red is also oriented there. So I can do R2 to solve this, U to align red, and L prime. Orients green, red is ready to be inserted, but my cross is not fixed. So, you guessed it, cross dynamics. I can now solve the cross and then solve the pieces. Why is that helpful? Because the order of solving pieces first and then aligning your cross, or aligning the cross and pieces next, is what will determine the efficiency of some solutions. In this case, we went the other way. We aligned the cross first and then solved the pieces. This is my third scramble, and here you might notice something cool. White, blue, and white, green are opposite to each other. Opposites are good because you know green and blue are opposite colors, so solving these would just take me 1, 2, 3 moves, right? But there's something cooler here. Red is oriented correctly, and it's with orange. That's another hint. And orange is oriented incorrectly. Incorrectly oriented edges can always help solve other edges or be solved by other edges. So here I can very simply solve green and blue like that. They're solved with respect to each other, but I didn't help white orange. And what can I do here to help it? Well, I know that orange belongs to the right side of green when white is on the bottom. So when I get the green down here with those 3 moves, let me influence orange as well, because it's unoriented. I don't want it to remain unoriented. So what I can do is bring it here. So that's now an oriented edge. Bring it here, which orients both of these edges and solves the orange. And now green does belong here and blue does belong here. And then red is opposite to orange. So I'll solve the entire cross opposite to where the pieces do belong. So green with blue, orange with red, and blue with green. Do an R2 to solve that, and a D2. That's it. And that solution was just 7 moves long. So that is how simple the cross can be, even though it looks so daunting. This is how hard that cross looked, with no pieces in the white layer and no pieces looking or seeming to be oriented, except of course this is oriented from this angle. But 1, 2 orients all 3 of those pieces, and that's the entire cross. Okay, this is the 4th scramble. In this case, what I really want to show is how dynamic you can be with your cross. And in this case, the way you can do that is notice that you have like orange with red here, red is right here, green is here, and blue is here. So I know green belongs to the left of orange. So this is the orange piece, and the green actually belongs here, but the red's in there. But I also notice everything's kind of lining up opposite to where they belong, right? In fact, when I solve this green with the 1 move to put it in the bottom layer, blue and green will be opposites as well. This is a pattern that you can see, because when I now move orange over, which is now here, to put the green next to it, red is with orange too. So when I put the green next to it, I will orient this with respect to blue, green, and red, orange, which is great because now I can align the cross opposite to everything. Put the blue, put the red, fix the cross. And that's how easy crosses can be, because just notice, I'm just blatantly disregarding where the centers are. All I care about is the orientation of the pieces and the fact that they're all opposite to the piece they belong to, which means they're all solved with respect to each other, just 1 move away from solving the cross. And this brings me to the last case that I wanted to show you. And these are not, obviously it's not an exhaustive list of cases, but just a few important cases I thought I'd show you. In this case, orange, red is here, and I see blue is here. So what can I do? Blue is unoriented. I can use the fact that this white orange piece is oriented to affect the blue, like that. So now when I insert orange with red, blue will align with green, and I can insert that, which will kick out red towards orange. So I can insert that, which will kick out green towards blue. So I can insert that. And just like that, all 4 pieces are solved, but they're a D2 away from the cross being solved. That's just another example of how the cross does not really matter until it's fully solved. And you can just play around with it, figure out what goes where, and just think about unoriented edges as things that either solve other pieces or can be used while solving other pieces, or can be solved by other pieces. In this case, it's all three. I'm using this edge to solve this unoriented edge. I'm using this unoriented edge to solve this unoriented edge. And then that unoriented edge, while solving that, will orient this edge. Like that, and like that. That's it. That brings me to the end of the video. I hope it was informative, and I'm sorry again that there's no one-size-fits-all tutorial for the cross. But I promise, just do 25 solves a day and don't solve like I am right now because I just messed up that PLL. But yeah, do 25 solves a day. Don't use any timers. Don't use anything but your brain and maybe a piece of paper and a pen. But yeah, that's all for this video. I hope it was helpful. Please share it if you thought it was helpful, and do let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments down below. I will be dropping a short video following this where I go through randomly generated scrambles, not like the ones I just showed you because I just set them up right before showing you what they were, and I will solve them on the spot in real time as a speedcuber. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. Peace.